moment that we've all been waiting for. Neptune entering Aries is happening this week, and it shows. I am so lucky to get to talk to so many people, and there are some common sentiments that are coming up, largely about how fearful they are right now to be living in this world, be living in this country, the United States, etc. That's some Neptunian stuff right there, because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and Pisces is the energy of, on the dark side, our fear. And it's our existential fears. It's the fears of the worst case scenario. It's all the what ifs. Our minds have a way of taking us very easily into the what ifs. And when we have any sort of stress in our life, our minds will go seeking for a reason to explain that stress. And often it will land on something. Right now, for people who especially watch the news or who are engaged in a lot of social justice or are on a social media feed that feels like an echo chamber where everybody is agreeing with everybody else and everybody may be outraged about what's happening in the system. They may be fearful about what could happen in the system. So there's a lot of lower vibrational energy that's being fed into the system right now. That Pisces Neptunian energy just loves to get into that because in Pisces, it's the sign of the fish. The fish, as the mascot for one of the water signs, has no protection. The fish must swim away. The fish is the one that looks at the world through the lens of the ocean or the pond and says, there are no boundaries here. I have to figure out a place to hide. Unlike the scorpion or Scorpio that has an exoskeleton and a poisonous tail, or the crab, which has a hard shell and pincers, the fish is unprotected, or at least that's the belief. That's the sense that we get in our nervous system is I am unprotected from all of these things that could happen. I read a news story and I envision that thing happening to me or to somebody that I love. And then suddenly that fear of that thing is embedded into the system. But Neptune is here to teach us the spiritual perspective. And we have gone since 2011 trying to understand our relationship in one way or another to our higher self, to our higher power. Because it is only when we are in relationship with the higher self or the higher power or God, however you understand it, that we come to understand that we are okay, that so much of the illusion is not going to happen, or it's false, or it doesn't apply to us. So the energy of right now, as we sit here in 2026, and we are watching Neptune hovering at the very final degree and minute of the sign that it rules before it switches into Aries. It's intense. And it is the most difficult degree in the whole zodiac because it represents I'm either dying, something is dying inside of me. I am transitioning from something very human into something that is of spirit. And I'm not talking about literal death. I'm saying what is trying to end with you right now? What is trying to transition into a higher understanding? So you want to look at your fear. What are the fears? What are the things that you are the most afraid of? And in so many conversations this week, I hear people who have allowed their fear to go unchecked. They are that body of the fish and they are being chased by something and they are trying to swim away as fast as they can. And I know that you can imagine the stress that that generates in the system, this low grade fear that something really terrible is going to happen to you too. So I want you to just take a minute and just take a deep breath and center any of those parts of you that look around the world and say, it's really bad. It's only going to get worse. What are we going to do? Because the energy right now is so strongly directing you and me and all of us at the need for a higher level of understanding. When I first started learning astrology, I learned that Neptune, Pisces, 12th house, you can put yourself in a hospital. I'm in so much pain. I feel so disconnected. I'm so lonely. Nobody's around. I'm hurt. I ignored red flags. I ended up wounded. You can put yourself in a mental institution. I'm going crazy. I can't deal. I need something to numb me. I'm mentally unwell. You can put yourself in a prison. I'm a prisoner of my fear. I'm always in danger. I can't get out of this. Or you can put yourself in a monastery, which is where you pray and you surrender yourself to higher guidance that you cannot generate on your own. So, this is your opportunity. As we sit here, we are working on these Piscean themes really strongly. And we also have all of the Aquarius stuff, which I talked about last week. I'm going to talk about this week again. Where are you putting yourself when you are reading the news, when you are scrolling through social media, especially if your social media is an echo chamber? Where are you putting yourself when you are laying in bed at night, ruminating over all of the worst case scenarios? I said this to a client the other day. There are so many things that could happen when you leave your house. You could get hit by a bus. You could get eaten by a shark. You could get struck by lightning. Yes, all of those things could happen, but will they happen? Very likely no. If we are to walk around feeling immersed in the fear that lightning is going to strike, how do we live life? How do we live life? So, my encouragement this week, as we're teetering on the edge of this changing of the guard, changing of the signs, is that you really have some heart to hearts with yourself. It feels very easy and familiar to slip into fear. We're all going down. It's all terrible. The truth is that it's not all terrible, and we are not all going down. This is very appropriate what we're seeing right now for the astrology. And there are plenty of things that are not going well. We know that. There are plenty of things that certain people in the world must be very cautious about and very scared of. That does not mean every single person. We are not all built to hold the empathy and the sorrow and the pain and the suffering of every single person in the collective. So I'm going to go into that. I'm Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. You can find me at electraastrology.com if you want to book a private reading with me. I approach astrology through a very spiritual and psychological lens. And I'm on Substack. My schedule is very busy, as you can imagine. And I am offering recorded readings, which are a great way to get your foot in the door and get some insight quickly. I have a gift of being able to look at your chart and flow with what's happening. And it's a cool gift. I'm not going to lie. I am quite amazed by the information that comes out when I'm just looking at somebody's chart. And we all have gifts. So, another question for you to contemplate is, what are your gifts? What are you here to bring to the world? What is your passion and purpose? Because as Neptune begins its journey now for years in the sign of Aries, which begins on Tuesday for good, your passion, your purpose, that question becomes a very important one. We are not all here to do the exact same thing. We are not here to fight the same battles, to have the same religions, to have the same experiences, to live a cookie cutter life with everybody else. Not at all. We are here on this planet at this time with very unique gifts. And if you get caught in your fear and you're spinning and you're just that fish that's swimming away, oh my God, I'm so scared, or oh, I'm making myself sick, I'm going crazy, I'm imprisoned. Like, how do you step into your mission and purpose when you are over there? So I suggest that you do a lot of introspection right now as we are making this major transition. We're talking about the week of January 26th through February 2nd. So take a deep breath, because this energy is wild. We are looking at Saturn. Saturn is not going to move into Aries until February 13th. So we have some time for that, but we're feeling it. And Saturn is the structure that lives within us. And, Saturn is part of this conversation too, because over the past 3 years, as Saturn has been in Pisces, we haven't really had a good sense of what our structure is. And that's why so many of us are like, what am I supposed to be doing? What do I love? Where am I at? It's been very confusing. Pisces is a confusing energy, but Saturn keeps reminding you, have some structure. And that structure can be found in your relationship with the communication that you have with your higher power. That's your guide. Your human mind, your Mercury mind, is not your guide. It is the thing that gets you from point A to point B. It helps you to navigate the world, but it is not your big guide. And I think too many of us depend on our Mercury as if it were the guiding force, the end all be all. And Mercury is too immersed in all of the minutia, the things that we read online, the conversations that we have with people that rile us up. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I noticed that as they began to get into all of their fears about what was happening in the world, that I started to feel very uncomfortable. It was like, oh, that's right. There's all these fears. There's all of these things that are happening that I need to be concerned about, that I need to guard myself against. And of course, all of this is fairly unconscious. So I don't even realize it. I just know that I get off the phone with this person and I feel really down. And I notice I have a stomach ache and my whole nervous system is very frazzled. Okay. So this is happening to us all day, every day. This happens also when you are scrolling social media, when you are taking in Mercury information and it's too much. It's like a glut. It's like you sit there and you overeat Doritos and you are guaranteed to feel sick. Okay. But Doritos are they're very delicious. They're very addictive. And so is talking about stuff that's wrong in the world, stuff that's fearful. Okay. So again, as we are moving into Aries energy now, boundaries. Aries is amazing at boundaries. It's ruled by Mars. This week, we are going to watch Mars make its conjunction with Pluto. So that's going to happen on the 27th. Now, last week, if you remember, we had Venus meet with Pluto, Mercury, and the Sun. How did that go for you? Actually, it was the day that Mercury met with the Sun that I had a conversation with somebody, the one that I was just sharing, where it was like, oh my God, I just got sucked into your fear force, your fear force field. And now I am going to have to unslime myself. So, whatever it was that unearthed for you, and that's part of what I've been saying is that the things that are coming up for you right now are things that you cannot take into the next energy. We are the snake shedding our skin. I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine. If you are listening, shout out, you know who you are. And she was explaining to me that the snake sheds its skin and it takes a lot of work. And it's the last quarter of the shed that is the hardest. So I did a little bit of research. And what I learned is that the snake's vision starts to become cloudy and it knows that it needs to begin a shed. Okay, so think of all of us over these last 3 years. As I was saying, it's been very confusing. What am I doing? What am I doing here? Is this even right? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on out there and what's going on in here? That is our eyes getting cloudy. We can't see. We just know that something has to change. So think of all the work that you've done, especially in the last, let's just say 6 months of 2025. It was kind of a rough 6 months, I think, for most people. You've been shedding. You have been getting these insights, these connections to things about what's going on with you that aren't working anymore, right? I can't carry that old communication style. I can't carry that bad habit. I can't carry that way of relating into what's new. So I have to shed it. So we are like in the last 3 quarters of that shed and it's getting hard. And yet the things that are showing up in your field are so full of really good information for you. For me, as I am talking to people, I talk to so many people. And of course, it's the nature of my work where I get into people's deepest, darkest with them. I'm very adept at holding the shadow, and I'm very good at not jumping into people's energy fields and carrying it, but it does happen sometimes. And when it does happen, I realize I have to get even better at holding my energetic boundaries so that I am not jumping in quickly to somebody's outraged Instagram post, for example, or somebody's sweet concerns about what's happening, right? I get it. It's like everybody's coming from a place that they feel is valid. And I have to be very careful, more careful than I was even being about not jumping in, not taking it on. It gives me a stomach ache. Okay, so for you guys, as you're listening, notice this week when the headache comes up, when the stomach ache comes up, when the achy hip, when the back goes out, what just happened? Because your body is giving you some sort of insight into something else that needs to be shed, something else that can't be carried. And all of this Plutonian stuff where these personal planets keep meeting with Pluto, we've been getting those downloads strongly all week. Pluto does not let you mess around. Pluto is very clear. You are disempowered. This is not working. If you would like to get your power back, here's what must happen. Okay, so this week, Mars meets with Pluto. Okay, boundaries. We are watching Neptune move into the sign of boundaries. We have to get better at not allowing everybody else's stuff affect me. I have to get better at not believing everything that I see. I have to get better at asking my higher power to help me understand. I have to get better at asking my mind to step back so that I can get a sense of what's going on. Okay. Neptune, Pisces is also about getting the sense of something. So the North Node in Pisces, as we've been talking about, it's been here for a year, it has about 6 more months. We are learning to shed our desire for control with that South Node in Virgo. And I say this in every single talk I do, and I say this in all the readings too, but repetition helps us learn. We cannot control everything. We can't control what's happening in another state, in another country. We can't control what's happening in another person's experience. We can hardly control what's happening in our experience. So, what happens is that we go into fear, Pisces, and then we try to soothe that fear by going into control, Virgo. Doesn't work. It's definitely not going to work this year. So, what do? We use that North Node energy as a sensory tool. I am sitting here in my warm house, in my office. I am okay right now. I don't know what's going on in, let's just say, a place like Iran. I don't know. It's probably pretty scary, but that is not my reality right now. My reality is right here in my office. And so the news and the social media and even the people that we get on the phone with, the people that we love who are whipped up into a frenzy, if we jump into that, that becomes our temperature. And that is not actually our immediate reality. So we have to be very careful right now. We are not putting our head in the sand. We're not pretending that things aren't happening that we don't like. But you're taking the temperature of what is right here, right now, because you cannot be of immediate service to somebody that is in another state. Not very easily. What do you have to be of immediate service to? The things that are in your immediate sphere, because that's how we begin to change what we don't like. If we want to see better, we have to do better. This Plutonian stuff, as all these planets pass by Pluto, we're asked to look at our own shadow. Hey, where do you get manipulative? Where do you get not honest? Where do you have bad boundaries? Where do you try to fight inappropriately? Where do you get overwhelmed and make bad decisions? Because the work has to begin here. So, as we're looking at all of this stuff, we still have this huge stellium in Aquarius. This week we have Mars, Pluto, Sun. We have the asteroid Vesta, Mercury, Venus. So it's all the Aquarius energy, which is about our relationship to the collective. So we're doing some fancy footwork this week where we have to keep separating ourselves as being a part of a huge collective. We're not denying that we're part of a huge collective because we are. There's no getting away from that. But we can't be of service when we're a million people in an auditorium. Okay, so just think about yourself. You're at a concert or you're at a basketball game, and there are thousands of people in the stadium, and people start booing at a player or they start throwing water bottles onto the field. Can you stop that? No, you will not be able to stop that. Is it wrong? Yeah. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to get rattled? Are you going to start screaming at people? Are you going to try to get people to stop throwing stuff by being angry at them? No. So this is where you have to find your center and you have to say, what can I do here? Maybe I need to leave. Maybe I need some space. Maybe I need to separate. Maybe I need to sit and take some deep breaths and hold some space for this group. Don't underestimate the power of using energy to your benefit. As we're moving into all of this new energy, this ability to see the truth of what's happening in a different way, we can't ignore the fact that there's something called energy. that we can work to manage. We can help to calm at least the people around us by having our own sense of calm. We can work to seed peace by finding our own peace. Everybody's really riled up. Whether we're riled up because our inner critic is telling us that we aren't working enough or we're not making enough money, or we're riled up because our relationships are annoying us, or we're riled up because of what's going on in the world, it's like, it's very addictive to get into that. And it serves very little purpose because we can't control anything right now. Okay, so what else do I want to say? Let's talk a little bit about the 3 degrees of Aquarius, which is where Pluto is perched. So this is the Sabian symbol, a deserter from the Navy. So the energy here is about breaking away from the collective when the collective is no longer in alignment. There's some subtle things to piece through for each of us when we're looking at the Aquarius energy, and make sure to check out the Aquarius talks under Astrology for Awakening. You can also check out the Scorpio talks because that's where I go into Pluto pretty deeply. And these are really interesting archetypes to understand about your own self. And those talks are all worth listening to, sometimes even a few times, because you'll hear different information. But this energy of the collective is so strong right now, and it's very polarized. Many people are on different sides of the fence. And because we are all so connected to one another through social media, but also energetically, I mean, we've ignored that for a really long time, but if we're all fish swimming in the sea and there's an oil dump, we're all going to be affected by the oil. So it's worth considering this idea of breaking away from some of that collective thought body. It's not about choosing one side or the other because both sides are pretty similar. They're all trying to battle. And do we want to be in the energy of the battle? So that's another thing with Neptune moving into Aries. Aries is the sign of the warrior, but Neptune is the spiritual teacher. And the spiritual teacher moving into the sign of war doesn't mean that the spiritual teacher becomes a warrior and goes to war. Not at all. Spiritual teacher brings a higher level insight into what are you at war with? What if instead of being at war with something, you looked for what you felt passionate about and gave you a sense of purpose? So instead of being out there punching people in the nose or screaming at somebody in their face and riling up their nervous system and just creating more of a problem than what you started with, what if you were going to use your gifts, your skills to create good? What if you wanted to make a change in the world and instead of going and screaming at other people, you went and volunteered your time, which is going to feel better, which is going to bring you closer to God, to your higher power? Pluto at 3 degrees, and it's perched at 3 degrees for a long time. And it has been at 3 degrees before. It's one of those degrees where it's stationing back and forth to go retrograde. So it's there for a while, and it is bringing us some deeper information, not to mention all the personal planets that have passed through, giving you insight into, wow, do I want to be a part of this particular thought body? Do I want to be a part of this particular group? Do I want to be in that camp of outrage, in the camp of betrayal, in the camp of panic, in the camp of fear? Do I want to be there? No, I don't want to be in that camp. Imagine you go to summer camp and there's the cabins and you see the fear cabin, the outrage cabin. You're like, oh, I don't want to be in those cabins. I want to be in the being of service cabin, the hope and optimism cabin, the things are going to change for the better cabin. Please. Thank you very much. So, some food for thought. And I'm going to leave it there. I think that's good. I think that is some good stuff for you to contemplate. How's it feeling? You're in the last quarter of that shed. You are getting even more clear about what it is that you can't carry. Because soon enough, we're going to have to hop on a horse. And if we want our horse to ride, if we want to feel the wind in our hair, if we want to feel the exhilaration of that fast gallop, we cannot be holding on to all of our crap. So I've shared with you that I have, over the past few years, had to go through, at this point, three different houses full of stuff, and I've had to get rid of stuff. Only one of the houses is mine. There is something about keeping stuff that is senseless. I get it. People keep stuff because it has sentimental value or because we need it. But at the end of the day, we can't take it with us. And we end up with clutter, so much stuff. So, where is the clutter in your own psyche right now? What do you need to get rid of? Because you're hopping on a horse, you're not going to hop on a horse with like 5 suitcases. You want to hop on the horse with a backpack that is full of the essentials. All right. Talk to you all soon. Hope you have a wonderful week.